2-1. I'll tell you what I got. I have number 2, I have Forks. I have episode 7, focusing on Ebon Moss-Bachrach. And then number 1, I have Fishes. What do you have for 2-1?
Same here.
Good.
Even though I thought about it. I did think about it of switching the 2. But end of the day, it has to be Fishes at 1 and Forks 1B. It should be 1A, 1B. But in our case, it'll be a 1 and 2. Forks at 2.
This also has an amazing cameo in it. Like, talk about like garnering talent. Another Oscar winner, Olivia Colman, shows up in a very touching moment with Cousin. And I thought that moment was so important for his character because it talks about her finding purpose, and her finding her calling later in life. And that goes exactly with Cousin. And it goes with the idea, like you see him he's working at the Beef in episode 6, and he's trying to get a job from Jimmy in that flashback. He doesn't want to be at the Beef. He sees something bigger of himself.
Even at the end of this, he doesn't want to be at the Beef.
Right. And that's what this whole episode was. It's just like finding purpose. And like, I think he realizes there is a calling for me at the Bear. Like, I don't have to do anything different. I can be in the food business and not be a great chef. Like, he asked the person he gets close with during this episode, Garrett, he's like, what are you, a chef or something? He's like, no, I'm in the hospitality business. I like to serve people. I like to help people. He talks about his sobriety and how he got better. And he gets like, there's a rewarding feeling that we talked about from their type of business, from them being at the front, helping people out, making sure their experiences are special and unique as possible. And the personality that Cousin has, he grows on you, right? You want to hang around him, right? He might come off a little brash and like, you just like don't like his presence to start off with. But then you see even the staff in this episode, he grows on them. They're really sad to see him go after only a week. So it's cool to see that Olivia Colman moment, finding your purpose later in life. And then also him recognizing this is where I belong. This is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, this was an unbelievable episode. We've had the Marcus episode. We had the Sydney episode before and a little bit of Tina episode. But this was the main side episode. This was the perfect feel. Like, if this was an individual, like, short, like, movie, this would be a perfect, like, feel-good movie.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of those in, like, sports. Like, this was absolutely perfect. And then we get the needle drop that we mentioned earlier with the love story. We get a little bit of heartbreak, too, because everything can't just be good, right? You get a little bit of heartbreak with him, ex-wife getting remarried, and he shot his shot.
The Taylor Swift concert, yeah.
Yeah, on the same call. Yeah, I was blown away by this episode. I think everything worked to a T. And I think it was just funny because Forks, again, the actual, like, cleaning the forks, the exercise, is just so funny because by the end of it now, he obviously had to be tested. He get the ultimate test of did he actually clean the forks before he could move on. But then looking back, even only over a week, he'll probably be laughing at himself. And that's just how much his character's grown over one episode. And it's definitely unrealistic, but overall, it's a television show. We kind of have to, the Bear opens soon. We have to kind of expedite things and just get out of the believability, I guess. Get out of realism for a second here and just kind of go with it here. Only a week just becomes into a super all-star here, and absolutely adored it.
Yeah, so like him reading all the books, him like memorizing the menu, like all that happened in a week. It was a little bit unrealistic, but like, crazy. Hey, like sometimes this show is more about the good vibes and like rooting for these characters. And you're right, we were waiting for that moment to have like the Richie episode. Because we were like, okay, we got Sid episode in episode 3. It sort of works, it's like it's like she's growing as a character, growing as a leader. We get Marcus in a great standalone episode. It's time for the Richie standalone episode. And this is the moment where I was telling you, like the first half of the season off recording, or maybe during our previous episodes, like I'm waiting for more Richie. I feel like he's been sidelined a little bit. And it seemed like the writers here, they were like, wait till you see episode 7. Wait till you see this. And it follows up episode 6, which is going to be our number 1 in our rankings. And what I thought was hilarious that he's washing forks. episode's title Forks, and it comes after Mikey, John Bernthal's character, throwing forks at Bob Odenkirk in the previous episode. Like there's something like inherently funny about like forks also being an emphasis of the next episode. Yeah, it was just so like it's just a character you want to have do well and accomplish things, and seeing him execute things in that finale that he learns in episode 7, so satisfying. That's what this show is good at, providing those satisfying moments with these characters that we love.
But yeah, and just to bring it back to episode 6 and with Mikey, it's so clever because at the end of episode 5, remember, they have a huge blow up, Cousin and Sugar, right? Huge blow up. So he thinks in episode 7, he thinks he's getting sent here as a punishment or like to kind of get out of the way of everybody, which I do think that 5%, 10% of why Carmy did this was for that reason. A small percentage. But I think overall, when Richie buys in, the sacrifice for service, every second counts, right? He could see the benefit and his purpose, finding his purpose, which we saw in episode 1, great scene with in the basement with Carmy, finding his purpose. And again, it gets to that feel-good story that I talked about. And then relating it back to Fishes with the forks, it's like Mikey at the end of the day, when that third time when Bob Odenkirk says, Uncle Lee, you throw that another fork at me, I will sock you. And then Mikey, you know
I'm
what?
I'm going to rock you.
Yeah, I'm going to rock you. And at the end of the day, Mikey succumbs to the fork and chucks it at him. Here, Richie's like, you know what? I'm going to take these cleaning forks jobs seriously. I'll clean the forks, right? He did what like Mikey couldn't do, right? It's just, I think, yeah, discipline, focus, see the bigger picture, right?
I think Carmy, though, I think he really did send him there because he is an integral piece for the success of the Bear as a restaurant. Like he notices, I need to have Richie in the front. If we want to get that Michelin star, you need that hospitality. You need that accommodation. It's not just about the food. And who are you going to have in the front there? Is it going to be Fack, who's just like this big dude running things, who's afraid to talk to people? No, you need someone that's personable and just needs to learn how to hone his skills. I really do think. And then Olivia Colman, that interaction, she's walking away and she's like, hey, like Carmy does believe in you. He told me. And then like that part, it's a little bit sappy, but I welcome it. Like I want to hear that. I want to hear that people believe in Richie like we do. But yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Olivia Colman. I think that was great for us to like hear that, right? But again, I think it was big for Rich because even though over the course of this week that was on his final day, this conversation, and now he's like getting groomed to become, I forget what the name of it is. It's not a host or whatever. I forget. I don't know the special names at these Michelin star restaurants, but it's Olivia Colman's basically saying it's never too late to start over and he gives her examples, and he's 45 years old and he's like, yeah, I learned so much this week, but like at the end of the day, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm 45. And Olivia Colman's like, well, you have people that believe in you and you now found your purpose. So why not just go and take that opportunity and run with it? So I think that cameo, Olivia Colman, just delightful. Brilliant cameo. Also, we get confirmation in this episode through the picture Will Poulter was talking about Carmy.
Yep.
Had to be. But that was great to see.
You get the Will Poulter picture as he's going to like talk to Olivia Colman. Like
right.
That's just awesome. That is just so freaking awesome. One thing that people always come back to the Bear for is for like how this like Michelin restaurants operate and like how high level restaurants operate. One of the coolest moments of the season is where Richie has to go get a deep dish pizza and then bring it back during the Forks episode. And then you say like, oh, what, are we just serving him this pizza? And the chef's like, no. Like we're going to do it up. We're going to carve it up and he's going to season it. We're going to put this in. We're going to burn it a certain amount of time. We're going to cook it for a certain amount of time. Definitely not burn it. But then the moment where Richie gets to present it, it's like I was on pins and needles. I'm like, don't fucking drop it.
Right?
Like, do not drop that dish. Like if you drop it, then I think you're done. But how personable he was, he hides it behind his back, the pizzazz he has, he wants to put on a show. That's where it's like, man, he is meant for this. This is his purpose. And like you're saying, it's never late to start over. That was the whole gist of the conversation. The whole purpose of the episode was to find Richie's purpose. That's what we're talking about here.
In the back of my mind, the entire episode, I was thinking, where is he going to mess up? right? And they had that little like team meeting before, like saying, "Oh, Bo Burnham's coming today," and like things like that. But they had the chef come down, not Olivia Colman, but like the sous chef or partner or whatever. Basically the Sydney of the restaurant say like, "Who did this? It cost us 45
It's
seconds."
a smudge. Yeah, every
smudge.
second counts. And then, dude, we're talking about episodes that connect to other episodes, like to the finale. Him like stepping up to the plate,
But
doing the tickets, looking at the clock, saying every second counts. Everything calls back to a detail from another episode.
Right,
The
and
writing is so freaking good.
it goes back to season 1 where he's like, "I don't care about this no mo bull crap." Like this is a big turning point.
Yeah.
And I think, again, kind of with the character development here, the wife scene, right? Tough. We get the love story car scene where he's still Richie yelling at other cars for bad driving.
Yeah, he's not singing everything. He's like taking a break from the lyrics to scream at people throughout the window. That was like, this is pure Richie. This is like Eben Moss Backrack was made to play Richie.
Yeah, and we just get that turnaround story here. And my final thought on this episode that I'm just putting the little tickler file for next season. So obviously, ex-wife now marrying someone else, cannot get her back. The person at the restaurant, the Michelin star restaurant, Ever, whatever it's called, they said, "Oh, like," she was like, "What did she say?" She was like, "Don't be a stranger." She said, "Don't be a stranger."
But she turned around and said it, didn't she? Like, she was walking away and said it.
Yeah,
Like,
and she kind of had a couple subtle like hints, like flirtatious, like comments to him throughout the episode as we progressed.
That's what we're getting season 3, a little Richie in love type of action.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying we saw that with Carmy this season. Maybe we get a little bit of Richie next season. I was like, oh, way to get it, like for the boys. Like that was great to see.
We needed him. He needed a pick me up. Like,
yes,
like, hey,
yes.
Every once in a while, everyone needs a win. Everyone needs it's just nice to get a win sometimes. Okay. Let's move on to number 1. Ricky, episode 6, Fishes. I could go 3 hours talking about this episode because it was phenomenal. It is a flashback holiday episode that is so ingrained in the DNA of the show. It fit perfectly into this theme of family, into this idea and what this show is known for, the chaos, and also just I don't know, like it's just like the anxiety induced environment of the kitchen being brought to the home. And it's not just in the kitchen of the home with Jamie Lee Curtis, but everything surrounding it, specifically at the dinner table. And it has in the 1927 Yankees roster a part of this, where you have the most electric characters from the core cast with Eben Moss Backrack and Jeremy Allen White. And then you have Jon Bernthal reappearing after season 1. Gives such a great performance in a limited amount of screen time. They bring him back for an entire episode, an hour-long episode. Then you have Jamie Lee Curtis coming off an Oscar win as the mother of the Bears, right? And then you have Sarah Paulson, John Mulaney as a couple coming in. Then you have Bob Odenkirk, right? Am I missing anybody? Think that's it?
I think that's it. There's so many.
And there's also supporting characters here that were just hilarious. This episode had everything. This episode was a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. And you knew it was going to be special. You talked about the title cards in the beginning of it. It has the needle drop in the beginning, it has the name showing up. And then also the final part, they knew this episode was going to be a banger. What's the name of their full last name? It's the
Berzata.
Like the Berzados, after Jamie Lee Curtis crashes the car into the house, they knew they had an absolute banger on their hands. This episode was heartbreaking, and then also had like literally laugh out loud, drop on the floor, hilarious moments that I'm gonna point out, and then also the performances that stand out in the guest stars, Bernthal and Jamie Lee Curtis in my eyes. Do you agree?
I would agree, but I still think. Like Sarah Paulson had that one moment, moved to New York moment.
Oh, everyone had their moment, yeah.
Yeah, Mulaney had his moment at the dinner table doing his speech. Won't be surprised if he gets cast to do some more serious dramedy type of roles now, not just voice work like Chippendale or Spider Pig, So yeah, some great cameos. But I think again, the show just took a huge risk this season. And to have a whole episode as a flashback is absurd. Like, that is so risky.
And it's twice as long as the other episodes.
And to add new characters, people that aren't in the same mojo with the cast, right? These are just like a one-time thing. And usually, like with flashback scenes or like television series, right? If they have like a episode that's like a break, not with the cast, they focus on a certain supporting character or something like that, like a cable television show or something. Yeah, it brings a different element and it's like a different perspective, but it usually hurts the momentum of a show, and it's non-critical, not a true, like, crucial part of the story. But here is where instead it is crucial. You get a better understanding of the Brazados and the background and a Carmy and a Sugar, and obviously where Mikey was, where Uncle Jimmy in this episode, Oliver Platt, also great in this. And then instead of hurting the momentum, I think this episode was the first episode, so episode 6, that actually brought like the rest of the season up another level. It just brought a huge wave of momentum, starting with this episode in this season. The first 5 episodes were still good. Honeydew was a good episode, but it's not like that fast pace that we're used in season 1. Season 1, we just had that one big tidal wave. Here is like we had multiple waves, like a roller coaster more. And this was the start of that last peak, right? That when you're going up the roller coaster right at the top and then all downhill, all full speed, full throttle, that was this. And it was just a masterpiece.
This whole thing is based on family. The Brazados, like the whole show is based on it. And to have the context in the history, like we felt like we understood Jon Bernthal's Mikey despite not seeing him, but then see the performance. You were like, wow, like everyone saw it coming, right? And I saw a direct through line between Mikey to Jamie Lee Curtis's character, the mother, where it's like these people that are obviously mentally struggling. They're going through abuse. They're users, right? You have the leniency of Mikey on his mother feeling the stress, but also what I found them as like a through line is how Carmy wants to be a part of their lives, right? But he doesn't feel like they're welcoming him into theirs. Where Carmy wants to work for Mikey. He wants to help the bear and make it a big thing. And it connects to like the finale where Jamie Lee Curtis is saying like she doesn't deserve to be a part of like their children's lives. Like literally Mikey has the same thoughts regarding Carmy. He's like, you are too good for us. You are too good for the bear. And that's why it's like there's an incredible moment in episode 6, really intimate shot within like the pantry. Carmy's going to get the saltines. He's confronted pretty much being called a saltine by Jon Bernthal. But in that moment, you could tell the struggle that he's going through. Carmy bringing the design of the bear, like this is what we can like accomplish together, and him pushing it aside, saying, "You don't want this. You don't want this. You cannot help this. This is a mess, just like our family's a mess. Just get away as far as possible. I am doing you a favor." That's where it felt like the Bernthal character and Jamie Lee Curtis were one and the same, and I couldn't get it out of my brain the entire time.
Yeah, and this is just one chaotic, small setting that worked so well, like a kitchen. It was very similar to that. And
Very
I think
loud,
with all
swearing.
very loud, all these loud personalities, it's just chaos. And Jamie Lee Curtis was at the heart of it. And yeah, it was bombastic. And was it over the top? Maybe a little bit. But overall, if you believed it. You believed it based off the stories that you heard, based off of why she's never there in season 1 and season 2. And I think, again, just with having a flashback, it really helps just get an understanding of this family that we just really didn't get. And I think it helps with Cousin, especially. We see him with his then wife and the baby's on the way. And that relationship, and versus where like in season 1, where his license was suspended, but he was driving and he was going to the hardware store with Sydney. And then he's on the phone with his wife and they're obviously having an argument, and then he's on the phone with his kid and back and forth, and Sydney kind of witnesses the struggles he's going with. Here we see before the struggles, but we can kind of forecast what's going to happen. So all in all, like, yeah, you're exactly right. This environment was great, perfect for these personalities, and overall an unbelievable episode.
This was the funniest episode of the season, by the way. For a lot of reasons. I was dying at Fak and his fat buddy. I don't even know his name.
Brother?
Is it his brother?
I think so.
When they're dressed in identical outfits for Christmas, it's as if they're getting ready for like a Christmas picture with the fam. And then they're trying to sell baseball cards to John Mulaney. And John Mulaney's like, I'm going to lend you $500, but I need you to call me every day just to update me, because he's just so entertained by this couple here. And then also they have like the moment with Dominic the donkey where you have Richie recording and saying solo, and they're like dancing. And then you have the other guy just like humping the wall, banging into Dominic the donkey. Those guys were an absolute electric factory. And I was so glad that we got Fak's brother in the finale, because I needed to see him again to make sure he was still around. But those guys were my favorite parts. But what were some other, like, any comedic moments that you're thinking of that kind of like stole the show?
I can't think of any off the top of my head except John Mulaney with those two guys again saying, you know what? I'll give you the $500 just to see what you're going to do with it. And I don't want any money back. I'll give you $500.
Truly entertained by them.
Yeah. You know? He's like, this is why I like coming back here every year. Like,
exactly. And he's like the outsider. He's not in the family. He marries into the family. So.
Right. And it's hard to get accepted into this family. And he's definitely more accepted than a Pete who brings the tuna with 7 fish, not 8.
I had that written down. I was gonna wait till you like listed your moments. The tuna casserole 8th fish moment, I was dying. I was absolute dying.
No. Get that out of here. Get that out of
Carmy like saying, what the fuck is that? And then you have Sugar coming up behind him. He's like, are you effing kidding me? And like throws it out the window and all this stuff. But that was like a huge debate, like what the 7 fishes means and everything. It ends up leading to, man, what a great moment for John Mulaney during that toast. And like, what does the 7 fishes mean? All it means is it brings us all together. That's really what it is. And someone worked very hard on this meal. And it was such a source of like controversy and argument. But he was, as an outsider, as not a part of like the Bear family, him coming in and saying that, it calmed everything down after the Bob Odenkirk, John Bernthal like argument, which also we got to talk about that. But I love that Mulaney moment because it seemed like everyone had their moment as a character here. Like you had Sarah Paulson talking to Carmy, and she's also like a cool cat the entire episode. I thought Sarah Paulson was awesome in this. And you have like Odenkirk with Bernthal. And you have Bernthal and Carmy. Bernthal with Carmy, like in the intimate setting and things like that. But yeah, that moment I thought with Mulaney was his time to shine, and he really like killed it. Let's talk about Bob Odenkirk and John Bernthal because I think they deserve a show together.
They're really good. I think those are just like, this is a great cast. Okay. And I don't want to say there's one actor better than the other, but I think this was just like, you know what? Let's just put these two together and just let them cook. Like, I really think that these two guys who never won anything, Better Call Saul famously, like, I don't know how many Emmy nominations, but has never won. Right. And Bob Odenkirk, obviously a part of that. And John Bernthal, who is kind of like, not a shadow, but like always that supporting guy, you know, and kind of cast aside a little bit. Here it's like you see, okay, they're together and look at this powerhouse. And yeah, you're saying here, let's find a show together. For me, I thought these guys one day should be getting an Oscar for supporting actor in something. One day.
These guys are like TV royalty, like going at each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, TV royalty. That's a good way to put it.
And that's where there was like, it's obviously Mikey, he's on like some type of drugs, or like he's smoking weed, or he's drinking too much. Something is happening with him. Pills, like they didn't show the pills, but like it's just evident that he was on something. One of the best lines, it has me cracking up. It was in like that serious moment. Richie is next to Mikey, and he goes like, "Mikey, take it easy. You're scaring the normals." It was just the funniest. It was like the most cousin line of all time.
It's so funny, or that's hilarious. But it's so interesting where like John Bernthal, he's sitting at the head of the table, right? And I didn't rewatch this front to back already. Like I just skimmed through each episode, just picking out the best scenes. And like in episode 1, they mention Uncle Jimmy mentions Uncle Lee, and then Carmy immediately goes, "He's not my uncle." And then now Fishes, it was very like, what the heck is he? Because he's clearly with Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, but he's still everyone calls him Uncle Lee. I don't think they're related. It's just that he's with Jamie Lee Curtis. And
I thought
his dad's friend that ended up dating his dad, like his best friend's wife, I guess, at the end of the day after he died. That's what it seems like. So there seems like there's already like a rooted, like combative relationship between Bernthal and Odenkirk in this relationship here. So, and Bernthal sitting at the head of the table is trying to prove like he's the true like man of the house and not this fraud of a father figure, I guess, is what I'm saying. And this dinner scene was just perfect for that relationship to like blossom.
It was like a dominance thing, like him sitting at the table, and like Lee, I think either was like in a relationship with Jamie Lee Curtis or like they're separated, but he's still connected to her somehow. And you see like a situation where Lee is like trying to like pitch her like real estate like type of moves and things like that. It just felt like really scammy, and he seems like a scumbag. Just seems like a real scumbag. And then he doesn't get along with anyone, literally anybody. So it's like, why is this guy here in the first place? And then it leads to like that confrontation. Jimmy like saying like, "Mike, you got to calm down." And then Lee's like, "Hey, good to have that familial support." And then Jimmy's like, "You're a dickbag too."
That was really good.
It's just like in those moments of complete seriousness and you're so locked in, they're not afraid to throw in like a funny quip because that's what this family is. You know, they're just going to do that. Okay. Other thoughts on the episode before we wrap up? We have our top 5. Fishes, amazing masterpiece in my eyes. I don't know if you are on that level of thinking of it, but it's one of the almost like most cinematic forms of an episode of TV I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, definitely a different way to approach it. And I think
this is in the Christmas rotation, by the way. We're watching this Christmas Eve.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. Christmas time. If this came out in Thanksgiving or December, would it have hit even harder?
Yeah, it just felt it's July. It's late June, so it's like, man. But I do think we should have even of a more deeper dive and maybe do a couple of awards during that episode, like for a Christmas time release. Like I really want to go deeper on this one. I know we spent a lot of time talking about it here, but I really think this episode, it stood out like head and shoulders above all the other ones. But I also thought the other episodes were just phenomenal too. It's like this, it set a bar where it's like, I can't wait to see how they outmatch this for season 3. Because I don't know how it's possible.
It'd be interesting to see if they do another flashback episode. I don't know if you can after this, because it seemed like this was kind of like the final family like moment because the car crashes and then Sugar, Carmy don't talk to Donna, Jamie Lee Curtis, their mom, after this. So I think you would have to go before this, but that's kind of odd. So it'll probably just be another scene or two like we saw in season 1 with John Bernthal telling the story while making the meat and putting the salt on the meat and everything. Probably something like that, I would think.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully, I can't wait to see what they do in season 3. God knows it hasn't been greenlit yet, but we know it's going to be because it's the best show on TV at this moment. We're kind of absent of great TV right now. Ending of Succession. We can't look forward to another season, but we can look forward to another season of The Bear. I don't know how many seasons they're going to do. Dare I say the next season could be the last season of The Bear.
Could be
because it's like them finding their footing and like opening and finding footing in season 2 into 3, them gaining a Michelin star, like potentially mid-season, losing it, gaining it. You could do a lot of stuff, but I would prefer them to go the Succession route where they end it earlier than extending it too long. And then we can see like some of these actors do some other things because they seem very capable.
Yeah, and we're already getting Jeremy Allen White and other things. Ayo Edebiri is going to be in Bottoms with Rachel Sennett in August. So, like, we're already seeing them. And Evan Moss Baccarat was in Andor.
No Hard Feelings just came out.
No Hard Feelings. So, like, he's already involved. So like, these people are already getting involved in other projects after this. So after season 3 comes out, imagine what their careers are going to be like then. So yeah, like I'd rather end early than go too long. Totally agree. And I think that honestly, FX, Hulu, and Christopher Storer, they're on that page as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he does. I know I've said it a couple times. Jeremy Allen White, the Iron Claw, going to be in that alongside a Zac Efron and Harry Dickinson. That's going to be a
Big one.
devastating movie. If you know the story behind the Iron Claw, we're not going to dive into it here. Wrestling movie, cannot wait. 3 young, very exciting actors. Okay, so let's just run through our list one more time. Okay, of top 5 episodes for season 2 of The Bear. At number 5, we have number 9, Omelet. At number 4, we have episode 4, Honeydew. At 3, we have episode 10, The Bear. At 2, we have episode 7, Forks. And at number 1, we have episode 6, Fishes. Sorry, I was pulling that off as I was reading, and it's really scrolling back and forth. All right, that's going to do it for our rankings, and that's going to do it for episode 243 of the Drive-In Podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you're staying up to date with the pod by following us on whatever listening platform you're listening to right now. We're available everywhere. Make sure you rate us 5 stars, leave a review. If you leave us a great review, we'll read it out on the podcast. Make sure you're staying up to date with our socials at the Drive-In Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Keep up with the graphics from Ricky Flicks and the latest news in the movie realm. Elon Musk cannot hold us down and will not hold us down. And then we have YouTube. If you're watching there, make sure that you are liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're going 5 videos, 3 to 5 per week. Make sure you're staying tapped in there. So that's going to do it for episode 243 of The Drive-In. For Ricky Flicks and Dr. O. Until next time, we will smell ya.